The first book of the Maccabees, 3 Orthodox Bible.
Orthodox means original. My grandfather was a priest for 40 years. My grandmother was a righteous woman. We in the books of the Maccabees. Chapter 3, Judas and Maccabees succeeds his father. Chapter 3, verse 1. The Maccabees. Then Judas, his son, who was called Maccabeus, rose up in his place, and his brother helped him, and everyone who had been allied with his father. They all fought the battle for Israel with gladness. Eulogy to Mattathias, chapter 3, verse 3. He enlarged his people's glory, and was clothed with a breastplate like a giant. He girded on his weapons and waged war, sheltering the camps with his sword. He was like a lion in his deeds, like a young lion roaring for its prey. For he pursued the lawless and searched them out, and he set on fire those who troubled his people. The lawless were humbled from fear of him, and all the workers of lawlessness were troubled, for deliverance prospered by his hand. He embittered many rules, and brought joy to Jacob by his deeds, and may his memory be blessed forever. He passed through the cities of Judah, and destroyed the ungodly from the land, and he turned wrath away from Israel. His name was known to the ends of the earth, and he gathered those who were perishing. Judas' early victories, chapter 3, verse 10. Then Apollonius gathered the Gentiles together and brought a great army from Samaria to wage war with Israel. But Judas knew it, and he went out to meet him. He struck and killed him, and many wounded fell, and the rest fled. They took their spoils, and Judas took the swords of Apollonius and fought with it every day. Now Sauron, the leader of the army of Syria, heard Judas had gathered a large assembly of faithful men with him, and they were going out in the battle. So he said, I will make a name for myself and be honored in the kingdom. I will fight Judas and his followers who despise the word of the king. He set forth now an army of godless men, strong enough to help him take vengeance on the sons of Israel. So he drew near to the highlands of Beth Horon, and Judas went out to meet him with only a few allies. As they saw the army coming to meet them, they said to Judas, How will we, being few, being able to fight against such a powerful number? We who have come out today are weak from the lack of food. Then Judas said, It is easy to him and many at the hands of a few, and it makes no difference before heaven to save with many or with few. For victory in battle does not come from the size of the army, but from the might of heaven. These come against us in the abundance of insolence and lawlessness, to seize us and our women and children, to take spoils from us. But we are fighting for our lives and our laws. God himself will crush them before our faces. But as for you, do not fear because of them. When he was through speaking, Judas suddenly rushed against them, and Sauron and his army were destroyed before him. He pursued him into the descent of Beth Horon as far as the plain. Around 800 of their soldiers perished. The remainder fled into the land of the Palestines. And then fear of Judas and his brothers began, and terror fell upon the nations around them. So his fame reached the kings, and the Gentiles talked about the battle of Judas. Syrian counterattacks. When Antiochus the king heard these words, he was very angry, and he sent and gathered all the forces of his kingdom, an exceedingly strong army. He also opened his treasury and gave a year's wages to the troops, and commanded them to be ready for any need. And then he noticed the silver in the treasury was depleted, and the taxes for the regions were small, because of this misfortune he caused in the land when he took away the law that existed from the earliest days. So he took care not to pay out the wages and give gifts as abundantly as he'd done before, even more lavishly than the previous kings. He was very disturbed in himself. So he decided to go to Persia and collect taxes from those regions and gather abundance of silver. And he left Lysias, a man of distinction from the royal lineage, in charge of all the king's affairs, from the river of Euphrates to the boundaries of Egypt. He was also to take care of his sons Antiochus until his return. And then he handed over Lysias half of the army and the elephants, and he gave him orders concerning all his wishes and concerning those who lived in Judea and Jerusalem. He ordered him to send an army against them to destroy them and remove the might of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem, and to remove their memory from that place. He was also the settler for foreigners in all their regions, and disputed their lands by lot. And then the kings took half of the remaining armies and left Antioch, the capital of the kingdom. In 147th year, he crossed over the Euphrates River and entered into the regions of the other side. Lysias appointed Ptolemy, the son of Daramenes, and Nicanor and Gorgias, violent men who were loyal to the king. And he sent with them 40,000 infantries and 7,000 cavalries to go into the regions of Judah and crush it according to the king's orders. So he set out with the whole army, and they went and encamped near Emmaus on the plain. And when the merchants of the regions heard about them, they took a very large amount of silver and gold and shackles and went into the camp to obtain the son of Israel as slaves. The army of Syria and of the land of the Philistines joined them as well. The Jews prepare for battle. In chapter 3, verse 42. Now, Judas and his brothers saw that the evil event were increasing and the armies were encamped at their borders. And they learned also the word of the king, which he ordered to bring destructions and annihilations on the people. So each man said to his neighbor, "Let us repair the ruins of our people, and battle for our people in sanctuary." And then the assembly gathered to prepare for battle, and to pray and ask God for mercy and compassion. Jerusalem was inhabited like a desert. No one brought product and took them out. And the sanctuary had been trampled down. The sons of foreigners were in the citadel, and the lodging place for the Gentiles. Gladness was taken from Jacob, and the flute and harp played no more. And they assembled and went into Mizpah, opposite of Jerusalem, because at the former time Mizpah was a place for prayer in Israel. They fasted on that day, and they put on sackcloth, sprinkled ashes upon their heads, and tore their garments. They opened the book of the law to take a look into the matters about which the Gentiles consulted the likeness of their idols. They also carried the priestly garments and the first fruits and the tithes, and they stirred up the Nazarites and who had finished their days. And then they cried aloud to heaven, saying, "What do we do with these? And where will we take them? Your sanctuary has been trampled down and defiled, and your priests are in the mourning and humiliated. Behold, the Gentiles have gathered against us to destroy us. You know what they plan against us. How will we be able to stand against them if you will not help us?" Then they blew the trumpet and cried out with a loud shout. After this, Judas appointed a ruler for the people, leaders for thousands and hundreds and fifties and tens, and he ordered those who were building houses and were betrothed to women and were growing vineyards and who were afraid to return each one to his own home, according to the law. And then the army departed and set up camp south of Emmaus. Judas said to them, "Be ready and draw to fight with these Gentiles who have gathered against us to destroy us in our sanctuary. For it is better for us to die in war than to look upon the evils the Gentiles would bring to us in the sanctuary. But as God's will is in heaven, so he will do."